Hey guys, it's Stephen Matheny here again with another video for you. This video is going to give you some tips and tricks on Google Forms and answer some of the questions that I've had in the comment section, such as how do I set up my preferences for future Google Forms and response validation specifically. Those are the two things we're going to be covering in this video. If you have any other questions about Google Forms, please put them in the comment section. That is how I came up with the idea for this video. Lastly, be sure to subscribe. That way you can make sure to get the updates on these videos. All right, let's begin. So here we got a Google form that is blank. To set up your preferences for future Google Forms, you're going to click these three dots in the corner, and you're going to click Preferences. The preferences I prefer is to collect email addresses, make questions required, and default quiz point value to 1. You can change this number to whatever you want. If you know that you're going to be making a 10-question quiz on Google Forms, maybe you want each question to be worth 10 points. That's great. If you're using the Google Form Easy Grader that we're creating in my other video playlist, hopefully you're following along with that. I think it's going to be really great. Then you can choose 1, and you'll never have to worry whether your quiz has 1,000 questions or 7 questions. It'll get the percentage grade for you as long as you've started creating it through that app that we're creating. And all you have to do is click Save. And then from now on, anytime you open a new Google form and start creating, it'll default all of those things for you. Now I'm going to address the second question that I got in the comments, which was how to make sure a student answers a question in a very specific way. So I've got this question here: solve for x where x plus 4 equals 9. And if you think about all the potential correct answers here and how they might be typed in a student's perspective, then you'll think that 5 could be an answer, x equals 5 could be an answer, 5 equals x could be an answer, and even those have variations. 5 in Google Forms is different than 5.0 or 5.00. And I've had several students that were told by their 5th grade teachers to always put 2 decimals at the end of their numbers just to make sure that it's always in hundreds places, because the Scantrons give you 2 decimal spaces. And that's not a terrible strategy to give students. But then when they fill in the Google form and they put 5.00 and it counts it wrong because my answer key only counts 5 as the correct answer, it becomes kind of an issue. Also, x equals 5 has some variations. Did they put x equals 5, or did they put x space equals 5, or x space equals space 5? You get the picture. There's so many different answers. And if you go into this answer key, we can list all the potential answers that we think students might write. And I used to add a correct answer 5, add a correct answer 5.0, add a correct answer 5.00, add correct answer x equals 5. And just saying that is exhausting, much less actually going in and doing it. So instead of doing that, we can use response validation and a description to make sure that students understand you want a specific answer and to force them to put their answer in a specific format. So as you can see in this description, I'm going to zoom in here. I have put a description: put your answers in terms of x. For example, x equals your number here with no spaces. Even then, students make mistakes and teachers do as well. So we can admit that it's probably best if we force them to make it in this format. So down here, I clicked the 3 dots and I'm going to click response validation. Now I'm going to zoom in again. You can see that response validation, Google is great and nice and friendly. It sees that we have a mathy type question, so we might want a number as our answer. That's excellent. And if we do want a number, we can even go over here and type and click this drop down menu, and we can just make sure it is a number. Sorry, my internet's a little bit laggy. We can make sure it is a number. We can make sure that the number is between two numbers. Check these out. If this might be a tool that you can use for some of your math type questions. But if I want my answer in terms of x equals 5, then I'm going to need more than that. I'm going to need a regular expression. So choosing that option will give me a better specific format. You have 4 options: contains, doesn't contain, matches, and doesn't match. What I suggest you doing is matches, though you could do contains for other purposes when you start to learn regular expressions. I'm going to click matches, and then the pattern that I want it to match is x equals some number. Well, to do some number and give variation, I'm going to open up a square bracket, and I'm going to put 0-9 and close my square bracket. So this reads x equals some number, but it limits the answers to one single digit. I want to show you what that does real quick. I'm going to click the eyeball up here, and I'm going to fill this in as if I'm a student so you can see what happens. And I'm just going to fill in this second one. So right now, if I type x space equals space 5, it's going to say must match a pattern. So if I erase those spaces, that error goes away. But what if I put 50? What if I thought the answer was 50? There's 2 digits here now. And if I click off of that, it gives me that must match a pattern. So let's go back because we need to fix this. We want them to have a format for their answer, but we don't want to give them the answer. So if a student thinks the answer is 10 or 50, we want them to be able to answer that. So what we really want here is we want x equals a bunch of digits, or 1 digit, or 2 digits, or 10 digits. However many digits they want to put here, we want to allow that many digits. So how we do that is we just put a set of curly brackets, and within that curly brackets, we want 2 numbers. We want to tell it how many times we're going to allow the previous thing to happen. In this case, the previous thing right before that curly bracket is any number. So we want any number to happen 1 time, all the way up to repeated numbers, maybe 100. You could make it 100 if you wanted to. Now, actually, you know what? For an example, let me just say 5. So we want an answer that has 1 digit all the way up to 5 digits in the format x equals that number. So let me go back to this fill-in form again and refresh it. You will have to refresh it. And I do suggest testing it out when you make your response validations, especially as you're new. Now let's do our answer. X equals 5 is still an acceptable answer, but x equals 50 is also an acceptable answer. In fact, as long as they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits or less, it is an acceptable answer. As soon as they do a 6th number, it's saying must match pattern. So you can change the second number to however many digits you want your answer to accept. 100 is probably a good amount of digits that you want to accept in that. Anything further would kind of be ridiculous, but maybe you need 1,000,000 digits, who knows? So that's how you do that. Let's say that you want the students to have their name as an answer. So Google Forms automatically change that to a short answer because it's smart and it's friendly and it wants us to have an easy time with it. Of course, the answer key here, you're going to want to put 0 points. This is not worth any points because it's just their name. But maybe you want their name in a specific format. Let me show you how to do that. First, we're going to give a description. So let's say I want them to put their name in this format. Last, comma, space, first. And in parentheses, I'm going to say that exactly. Put your last name, a comma, and space, then your first name. This actually makes it easier when you're sorting through, so I suggest you doing that as well. Now I'm going to go to the three dots. I've already given a description on how I want them to format their name, and I'm going to click response validation. Now, of course, I could go here and just say I want some text, but that's not going to do us any good. We're going to go down to regular expression. The two things that get under my skin the most is when specifically regarding Google Forms, I should say, is when students don't capitalize the first letter of their names and when they don't read the instructions and put their answers in the format that I asked them to do it. This is going to solve both of those things. So I've told them a specific format that I want their name. This is good practice because there's all kinds of forms in the world that you have to fill out very specifically, such as think about how many times you've had to type your birth date, and sometimes you have to type dashes between the month, day, and year. Sometimes you have to type slashes. Sometimes it wants the full year. Sometimes it just wants 2 digits. So there's a lot going on here that we're teaching when we require them to fill these forms in very specific ways. And I think it's good practice for the future. So again, we want matches. Contains would probably work as well for this, but matches is the best one in my opinion. And we want them to capitalize their last name. And we want them to capitalize their first name, the first letters at least. And we also want them to put a comma and a space. So watch how we can do this. I'm going to do those square brackets, capital A through capital Z, square brackets again. We just want one uppercase letter. The next thing we want is a bunch of lowercase letters. So you might be able to guess the next thing we're going to do. Square bracket, lowercase a through lowercase z, square bracket. Their name's probably not going to be just 2 letters long, so we're going to do the trick that we had before, which is curly brackets. We want this pattern to repeat 0 through 100 times, I guess, could possibly be a really long student's name. And I guess I put 0 just in case they only have 1 letter for their name. That would be kind of crazy, but maybe they do. Then I want comma, space, and the same thing again. So I can just copy this, what I've already got, and because their first name is going to be the same format as their last name, I can just paste that again. So I could paste it again, but I am going to type it just to make sure that you understand. So open square brackets, A through Z. This is saying I want any capital letter in the alphabet. Open square brackets, A through Z again, but lowercase. This is saying I want any letter of the alphabet except for lowercase. Finally, open curly brackets, 0, comma 100. This is saying I want them to repeat the lowercase letters for however many letters is in their name. And then I put the comma and the space between those two things because that's what I asked them to do, comma, space. Now I am going to give a custom error text here as well because this one's very specific. I'll probably go add one to the other one as well. And the custom error I'm going to give, if the student doesn't follow this format correctly, I'm going to tell them last, comma, first, just so that they have an example of what it looks like. Down here, I'm going to also add a custom error text, and I'm going to say x equals, and I'm going to put number sign, just so that they know to put x equals whatever number. They will get used to this if you continue to do this regularly. I'm going to click preview. Now we're going to see what it looks like when I try to fill in the name value here. So if I just put my name is Rex Quan Joe, then it's going to give me an error, last, comma, first. If I put Matheny, comma, Stephen, it's still not going to accept it until I put a space there. Then it's going to accept it because that's the exact pattern that I asked for. So, pretty great. If I don't capitalize my name Stephen, if I don't capitalize my name Matheny, but I do capitalize the name Stephen, it does not accept it until I follow the exact pattern that I'm forcing the user to use. And hopefully you noticed the response feedback here for not doing it correctly is this. And this warning will not go away. It will not let them submit it until they finally answer correctly. If they really don't get the description and your help text here, they'll raise their hand and they'll ask you, and you can help them out. Same thing here below. It's not going to let them put x space equals space 5, even though that is the correct answer for this. We don't want to have to go through and check all of the different answers to make sure they typed it exactly how we wanted, x equals 5. So instead, we're going to force them to do x equals number, which is the feedback that they get for not doing it correctly. And then as soon as they hit that correctly, it's good to go and they can submit it. So that's response validation. That's all I have for you today, guys. I hope you got something out of it. Response validation is an extremely powerful tool. I'm going to post in the description below a link to where I actually learned how to do regular expressions for response validations. That way you can learn more if you're interested. Comment below if you have any questions about Google Forms and you want me to address them in my next video. I'll be glad to do it. And be sure to subscribe so that way you get updates when I do post new videos. If I get 1,000 subscribes, I decided that I'm gonna do something a little bit crazy in my Google Forms Easy Grader playlist for my last video. I may or may not be making up a song that I think teachers might think is funny during this time. Maybe not, who knows, we'll see. But you guys are really awesome, and I'm really thankful for your support and all your feedback so far. Y'all continue to enjoy your time with your family. And thanks again for watching.